Hello and welcome to this special edition of MindShareTV, where we bring you the brightest minds in education and EdTech. I'm your host, Robert Martellacci of the MindShare Learning Report in C21 Canada. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with a distinguished educator, leader, Dr. Gustavo Balderas, the President of AASA, the School Superintendents Association, and Superintendent of the Beaverton School District in Oregon. I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Balderas at ERDI, Education Research Institute. Recently, Dr. Balderas has dedicated his career to equity-driven leadership, championing innovation, student success, and educational transformation. Today, we'll explore his vision for AASA, the evolving role in AI and education, and challenges and opportunities facing superintendents. Thank you for joining me this afternoon on MindShareTV, Dr. Balderas.
No, I just appreciate you having me, Robert. No, it's a privilege to be able to share all the great things we're doing here in public education.
Fantastic. And perhaps we can kick it off. First of all, congratulations again on your new role. You took over in August, I believe it was?
July, yeah. So July last year. So
yeah. Can you share your vision for AASA during your tenure and what you hope to accomplish in this pivotal moment in education?
Yeah, so it's a privilege to be able to help support AASA with our phenomenal executive director, David Schuler, who's been on the role for a little bit. And for our role, we have a year-long role. And really, it's just promoting public education and the power of public education. So I think my vision is always is to bring people together, whether you're rural, or suburban, or urban. Is how do you bring school superintendents together under a common vision of what public education needs to be for all kids? I think that's the one thing that one of the reasons I chose to run for office was to be the president, was to really help bring people together and really focus on not just the urbans or suburbans, but the rural that make up the majority of our school districts here in the United States.
Fascinating. And AASA has been at the forefront of supporting and developing leaders across the U.S. and Canada too. I know there are many Canadian superintendents that come down to your conference that's upcoming in March, and we'll touch on that. Given the rapid changes in education, what are the key challenges facing superintendents today, and how is AASA equipping them to lead in the new era?
I think some of the challenges we see with school superintendents are varied depending on where you're at, but common issues, concerns are sustainability in the seat. There's great turnover in school superintendents right now, more so than I've seen in my 35 years in education and my 14 years being in the superintendency. I've seen a lot of turnover, and I think there's a variety of reasons for that. I think that education's always been political, but I've never seen it so partisan in my career. I think that the politics of the superintendency are becoming more and more difficult, and I think that's one issue. The political unrest at the higher stage is also a big concern, but also school budgets. We have these budgets. I think people got dependent a little bit during the COVID pandemic on federal dollars here in the US. Those dollars are gone. They're no longer there. So how do you balance your budget with dollars that you've had? And a lot of people really spend money on people and that are no longer affordable. And also just a lack of staffing. So sometimes, especially in key positions such as special education counselors, they're hard to find. They're just hard to find. I think those are the biggest issues. I think what AASA does is they bring people together to really provide a collaborative forum, a professional learning community, a PLC of superintendents often to be able to share insights with one another. I think that's the power of AASA, the power of bringing people together and be able to have common views, whether it's regional or national.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things.
Yeah, I think you really touched on an important point around people in that human connection, as much as, and we'll be touching on AI and the trends in EdTech, but human connection and relationships. I shared with you off air as we were having a warm-up chat, the number one most important thing for well-being and longevity, a Harvard study shared, is positive relationship.
I couldn't agree more. Again, because we're in the relational business, right? I mean, I'm literally a teacher on special assignment. I'm a teacher on special assignment that became a superintendent, but I got into the profession to be a teacher. And teachers, and again, we care about kids, all kids. It's a power of connection. That's when you talk about what causes success for students, it's that one caring adult over and over again. The one caring adult for a kid, right? It's no different than for us. It's a common connection with each other and with our constituents, with our community. It's relational. We're relational beings. It's just the industry we're in.
Well said. Well said. Let's touch on AI and the future of learning. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing education at a speed we haven't seen in modern education. From personalized learning to administrative efficiencies, AI has the potential to transform how schools operate. What are your thoughts on the role of AI in education, and how should superintendents be preparing for the shift in a future that isn't clearly seen?
Yeah. So we've had artificial intelligence. It's been around for a long time, but like to your point, Robert, it's coming at us at such a rapid speed right now. I think you're either going to be a superintendent on the bus, or you're going to be a superintendent that's been left off the bus. to use school terms. You need to be really focused. I think we as school leaders need to be the most prominent spokespeople for your district. I have 38,000 kids. I have 300,000 people in my community. We have to be leaders in this. And how do you leverage that tool to make your operations easier? Again, it's a tool. Now, leverage all the aspects of that tool to make sure that you are able to do your job more effective and efficient. I think that's the power of the superintendency, going down to your principals, your direct reports at district office, and to your teaching faculty.
Well said. Thank you so much for that. We can't ignore equity and access in K-12 education. You've been a long-time champion of equity in education. How do you see AI and digital transformation and EdTech playing a role in bridging the learning gaps and ensuring that every student, regardless of background, has access to high-quality education?
I think one thing that the pandemic did do is it provided the opportunity to have more technology in front of kids. So most systems have technology in front of kids. We were a one-to-one district before that. So technology is a tool, and anything that goes into that technology, the applications are part of that tool. So to me, it's access. Is how do we utilize and leverage the technology to provide leverage for access for more kids? And what does that look like? Through translation services and also to families. I was talking to a family the other day in terms of, hey, if I speak this language, how do I know? Well, we have technology to do that now. So we don't need to have to call a language line on the phone to be able to get a translation. We have it right here on our devices. We have it right here.
Well said. Supporting mental health and social emotional learning. Let's touch on that. With the increasing focus on student and educator mental health, what strategies and resources is AASA advocating to support social and emotional learning and well-being in schools? Because it is a tremendous challenge. I was a long-time hockey and soccer coach for 15 years. My kids all thrived by being outdoors and being active to burn off the energy and balance things. And I still play hockey 3 times a week.
Oh, I'm jealous. Jealous that you still play. That's great. Great to do that. So, AASA has an SEL consortium of superintendents. So they support superintendents not through this only consortium, but having focus groups that really support the learning of what is social emotional learning and how does it impact. So Shelley Berman works for AASA now, and he's a retired superintendent that leads his cohort. But there's a lot of opportunity. I know we have a conference coming up. There'll be a lot of strands to speak to social emotional learning and the impact of that. Because again, it goes back to what you said earlier about wellness, about relationships. I'm less likely to get through to a student if they're not feeling safe and a sense of belonging to them in my classroom. So how do we really support the whole child to ensure that they have access to the curriculum that we're trying to teach? And I think that's part of the SEL is what it is and what it isn't. It's really taking care of kids and meeting them where they're at and developing and really focusing on the whole student. Let's just say academic side, the well-being, the whole student, so they feel engaged and able to learn.
Fascinating. Well said. innovation and your superintendency. We often talk about innovation in the classroom, but what does innovation look like in a superintendency? Can you share an example of how Beaverton School District, or another district for that matter, is leading the way in reimagining education?
I always talk about schools without walls. So meaning that, we get stuck in this in the United States, we get stuck in this agrarian calendar that starts in September, that ends in June. And we have these seat time requirements, the Carnegie units, where, a certain seat time for us to be able to be in schools. Is I think we need to look at different ways to educate students, and using the technology, using all the tools at our disposal to make sure that we are able to meet the needs of students where they're at. Meaning that, hey, why can't a student take a class 4 to 6 Tuesday, Thursdays like they do at university for a requirement, and being online? So I think what's going to happen in the future is the power of differentiated schedules for students, be able to have coursework be able to be completed, not just in a high school, but also online, and just have a different experiences for kids so they meet their requirements, but also able to meet their needs, because a lot of kids work and some kids are in dual credit already. So they're already
right.
Really changing the kids' schedule to meet their needs. I think flexible schedules for students is something that's starting to make an impact now across the country. And I think you're going to see more of that.
And achieving that true personalization.
Exactly.
Every learner's different. And my son was on an IEP, and he thrived because we got him additional supports. How important is that for, it begs the question around parental engagement and student success. It's a partnership. How important you see parent-teacher relationships with the student?
I think it's essential. I think the parent, the guardian relationship is essential for a student K through 12. Another thing that I've always promoted also are personalized education plans for kids, kindergarten or preschool, all the way through grade 12 in the United States. And what does that look like? Involving the parent as a true partner, a parent or guardian as a true partner in their child's education, so that it's authentic two-way communication with the family, and not just the teacher saying this to you, but really collaborating to develop a plan of action, a personalized education plan for their student that's truly personalized. So like I said earlier, by the time you get to 9th grade, maybe they're at the high school halftime, maybe halftime they're working, but they're also taking some online classes to fulfill their credits, because that's what they want to do. Or again, by the time they get their junior year here in the States, when they're eligible to go to work, or internships.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that. We talk about the 7 C's, pulling at 5 C's. I think ISTE has 4. We're preparing. They've come of age because we're preparing students for a future that isn't clearly seen, and having those durable skills. I don't like soft skills. The notion of durable skills that prepares these kids to be critical thinkers, resilient, problem solvers. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is having kids be work ready, right? Having kids be
Right.
work and world ready. So what are the process skills that kids need to ensure that they're effective human beings once they leave us in K-12, whether they go college, career, military, or other, they have the skills to be able to work in groups, that they're able to be time on task, that they they understand how to communicate. I think all those skills are needed, because again, you said it earlier, the future is something we don't even know about. The jobs that are going to be created, when these kids are kindergartners and 5-year-olds, haven't even been thought of yet. So it's just preparing kids for the future that's unknown. But what are those process skills, durable skills, world skills that they need to be successful, that are kind of cross any path, any vocational
Absolutely. Let's touch on the AASA National Conference on Education next month. It's in New Orleans, bringing together superintendents, district leaders, and education experts from across the country and internationally. What can attendees expect this year? The theme, what are some of the key themes, highlights that they should look forward to? And it's not too late to register, I presume.
It's not too late to register. I'm just ecstatic about the conference, because it's such a great opportunity for professional development. It's the #1 professional development opportunity for superintendents. It's an opportunity to collaborate with others from across various states or other countries, as you mentioned. And it's really going to be future driven. So what is the future of education going to look like and feel like because of all the changes that are happening right here, not just with technology, but the political landscape is changing. And for us, it's just making sure that we focus on what we're here for, and that's our kids. And how do we focus on creating the best educational experience for our students so they can thrive and be able to, again, be able to live out their dreams here in the U.S. So for us, it's getting people together and the theme future driven. It really, you're going to hear from David Schuler, our wonderful executive director, that speaks a little bit in terms of how we need to frame education in the future as well, to make sure that we are unified as a country, whether you're rural, suburban, or urban. You're unified in the message of supporting all kids.
So inspiring. And speaking of David Schuler, you have a new colleague in one of our former directors of education in Toronto, where I'm a proud alumni, John Malloy. I have to say a special hello to John. Talk to us about leadership and someone like John joining your organization who made such an incredible impact on education North America wide.
I think that's it, is, hiring the best team we possibly can to make sure that they support the superintendents that make up, again, all districts across the U.S. John Malloy is absolutely a marvelous hire, but, Dave Schuler has been having a lot of marvelous hires lately. So that's why we hired him earlier. But it's just developing that power team to make sure that they guide education and are able to drive public education in the U.S. And they have the strongest lobbying team. It's a small and mighty team that they have that does a phenomenal job of lobbying for public education in Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill, to really fight for kids and fight for with the voice of superintendents in mind.
So inspiring, and thank you for that. Talk to me about who inspired you, and encourage others to want to pursue your pathway to leadership, and the importance of that, because we do have a vacuum. I'm a baby boomer. The baby boomer tipping point is happening right now. So we need to inspire new and upcoming leaders, but it's a little daunting, but they should know what they're getting into. And it's not always peaches and cream, but it's about making an impact. And it's a mutually beneficial growing experience, because it is rewarding in many regards.
Absolutely. So someone who inspired me was a deputy superintendent in my district where I spent 20 years in, Carlos Perez. And he was the highest ranking Latino in the whole state of Oregon. And he took me under my wing, mentored me, met with me once a month when I was a teacher, when I was a counselor, then became an administrator in the Hillsborough School District, which is also a West Side suburb, and really and guided me to the path of being a good administrator. And I learned from him in terms of just what he thought what good administration was back then. And my goal is always to keep the bench long, deep, and make sure there's plenty of people on it, right? So that's the goal for me, is be able to bring up people. I think that's the moral imperative of superintendents. I think the moral imperative is to make sure you bring up people to take over your seat and make it better than when you left it. So that's the goal for every superintendent that we should have. And AASA does a great job with that, with all the superintendent academies and aspiring principal leadership academies. To just make sure that whatever you choose to do is be supportive and develop your cohort of people that are going to help you throughout your career.
So eloquently said, Dr. Balderas. Final question, looking ahead and a call to action as we look forward to the future. What do you have? What advice do you have for education leaders, policymakers, EdTech innovators who want to collaborate with AASA to support superintendents and their districts in driving meaningful change and digital transformation?
I think first, come to the conference next month, but also just make sure that you network with as many people as you can, talk to as many people as you can, introduce yourself, go into circles, make sure that because we're all there for a purpose. We're all there to get better, and we're all there to connect. And again, it's the best professional development, because again, there's resources out there that I haven't even thought of. And that's why I love coming to the conference, because you always pick up things that you can bring back to make it better in your system. And I think words of wisdom would be, is stay resilient, stay positive, and like you said earlier, it's all about relationships. It really is about relationships, positive relationships, positive vibes. So again, I think that's what I'll leave you with. That is, always have a smile on your face, because again, you can only control what you can control. I can't worry about everything else that's happening in the world, but I hopefully have some level of control over some aspects of what's going on in my world.
I love your passion. I love your growth mindset, Dr. Balderas. It's been an insightful conversation. Thank you for sharing your vision and leadership. I'm grateful for your insights and strategies to support school leaders, students in an AI-inspired education. Before we wrap up, the audience here wants to learn more about AASA. How can they get involved?
Yeah, I think just reach out, get on the AASA website. They have a plan, and the resources that are coming out of AASA right now to help support superintendents, they've always been incredible, but they're so useful most recently in terms of the guidance coming from our president's executive orders, and just to help guide districts in terms of what it is and what it isn't, and provide information. I think it's been incredibly helpful as a guide to all school districts. So again, just a resource bank, phenomenal.
With that, thank you again, Dr. Balderas. That was Dr. Gustavo Balderas, President of AASA. My name is Robert Martellacci, the MindShare Learning Board and C21 Canada. Be sure to check out www.mindshare learning to get your latest issue, and C21 Canada for the latest AI projects that we've unveiled. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.